Better than me.
Texas volleyball is returning to action. The Denver Nuggets grab a win against the Lakers, and Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals is underway in Edmonton. All of this and more coming up on College Crossfire.
Yeah, let's do this.
And their men's basketball team needs to stop social distancing themselves from fans.
But now it has been overdone to death. Playing, don't stop believing.
Bye-bye, Bucks. Bye-bye, Raptors.
All right, let's get to it. Welcome into College Crossfire. I'm your host, Jaxie Pidgeon, and it looks like tonight's show is going to be a good one. Let's introduce tonight's panel. On first base, we have Jordan. How are you doing tonight?
What's up? I'm doing well. Excited for my first appearance of the semester. Let's get it done.
Excited to have you. On second base, we have John Kelley. How are you, John? Returning champion.
I'm great, Jaxie. I won last week, and I'm looking to win this week.
Love to hear it. And on third base, we have Raul Rodriguez. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Also glad to be back for my first show of the semester.
Happy to have you. All right, let's get to it. Texas football will take off to Lubbock for their first matchup against Texas Tech. In the past 5 seasons, Texas is 3-2 against Texas Tech and has won 2 straight matchups under head coach Tom Herman. Both teams are coming off a bye week and enter this matchup 1-0. Texas Tech squeaked out a 2-point victory over Houston Baptist, and Texas took down UT El Paso 59-3. This will be the opening conference game for both sides. That being said, the Raiders are looking to bounce back, while the Longhorns look to add to their win streak and prove that they are a national championship level team. So, what does Texas need to do to slow down Texas Tech on Saturday? Jordan?
Yeah, I think that all Texas has to do basically is just play how they did last week, not make any costly mistakes, and they should have this victory in the bag already. Texas Tech doesn't inspire a whole lot of fear after last week, where they nearly lost to Houston Baptist when it was their first time ever playing a Power 5 school. Their defense gave up 572 passing yards, so if Sam Ehlinger can keep up the passing attack he displayed against UTEP, the Horns should be able to move the ball pretty easily. Now, Texas Tech does have QB Alan Bowman, who Texas has never faced before, and while he does provide a jump to the Texas Tech offense, this should still be a convincing win for the Horns either way.
All right, Jordan's got the Horns. John, what about you?
Texas needs to shut down the running game of Texas Tech. While Alan Bowman did throw for 430 yards 2 weeks ago against Houston Baptist, their star running back, Sir Roderick Thompson, rushed for 118 yards and earned 2 touchdowns. And while he was arrested on Monday for some things that happened over the summer, Texas Tech has said that they are going to play him Saturday against Texas. And I think that's very telling that they're looking to use him in some interesting ways against this Texas defense.
Yes, the defensive end is definitely going to be an interesting matchup for Texas, as they only had UT El Paso to compare it to. Raul?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that the key to this game is pressuring Alan Bowman. As John said, he threw for 430 yards in last week's win over Houston Baptist. I think if you pressure Alan Bowman, they're going to have to utilize the run game a lot more, and I think Texas can do really well against that. More specifically, on the offensive side of the ball for Texas, Houston Baptist had 3 receivers over 100 yards. One of them had 209 yards over 5 receptions. So basically, Texas Tech was getting burned all game. I think if Texas can, capitalize on the poor defensive game that they had last week against Houston Baptist, I think the Longhorns will have a really easy time pulling away a victory this coming week.
Yeah, I think all of you guys are going to get the points on that one to start off. It's just, Tech started off pretty low. So with Texas coming in on a high note, it makes it pretty hard to believe that Tech could come in and just, knock Texas out right away. So all of y'all are getting the points on that one. Heading into the second question is soccer. This past Friday, Texas soccer took on the TCU Horned Frogs in Fort Worth. This was the Longhorns' first road trip of the season, and they came home with a 3-0 loss to TCU. Texas was coming off their 1-0 loss against Kansas the week before that was scoreless until the 80-minute mark. In the matchup against TCU, Horned Frogs senior midfielder Yasmeen Ryan first scored at the 28-minute mark. TCU followed that goal with 2 more late in the second half. The Longhorns outshot the Horned Frogs overall 20-16, but TCU led 9-5 in shots on frame. UT has 17 returning letter winners from last season. However, something is a bit off. That being said, what is the center of Texas's offensive slump? John?
Texas really just needs to find the net in these games. In that game against TCU, they had 20 shots on goal, but only 5 of them were from the box. And they're obviously applying the pressure with that many shots on goal, but they're just not connecting. And they need to do that in conjunction with securing the back line and keep them from scoring anymore.
Right. It's just keeping everyone, you got to do your job on the field. Raul?
Yeah, I think that this game against TCU was kind of wasn't a really good showing of what Texas is capable of. I thought that first game against Kansas really showed how Texas played. As you mentioned, they shot 20 times with only 5 being on target against TCU. Against Kansas, they shot 12 with 7 being on target. I think that they take better, higher percentage shots when they do play this next week against Oklahoma. I think they're going to have a good time. They're going to be able to score and get out of the offensive slump. Oklahoma hasn't played a game this season, so this will be their first game. I think this is the perfect opportunity for the Longhorns to get things going on the offensive side of the ball, and I wouldn't be surprised if they score multiple goals to start that game.
Right, and it's not like they're not firing off shots. It's just that they're not going in. So it's just a matter of going in for them, and hopefully they'll see something different at Oklahoma. Jordan?
Yeah, kind of to reiterate what you just said, Jaxie, I think that UT is doing well in statistics like shots on goal, shots per game, corner kicks, all of that. They just haven't been able to find pay dirt yet. But I think players like Haley Berg or other people like that, if they keep up the shots, they eventually will start going in. The goals should start tallying up, and that means their wins will go up too.
Right, and you mentioned those key players. They are, especially Haley Berg and Julia Grosso, like that duo, they are killer when they're actually on their game. So I think it's a matter of them going in. So Jordan, you're going to get the points on this one. And we'll head into the next question, which is volleyball. Texas volleyball begins their season tomorrow against the rival Oklahoma Sooners in Norman. For the 10th consecutive year, Texas has been voted Big 12 Conference favorite. Texas has a 52-4 all-time record against Oklahoma, and the Longhorns have won the last 10 meetings. Head coach Jarrett Elliott has most of his stars returning. Logan Eggleston, Skylar Fields, Breon Butler, and Asia O'Neal, to name a few. On a different note, Elliott has 4 new additions to this team. Setter Naomi Cabello, outside Madison Williams, libero Nalani Yosia, and defensive specialist Riley Heinrich. With some familiar faces returning and some new ones making their debut, who is a player you see stepping up this season? Raul?
I'm going to have to go with Breon Butler. I mean, she's already had 2 fantastic seasons with the Longhorns. Her freshman year, she led the team with 130 blocks. This past year, she led the team with 95 blocks. She did have a little bit of a drop-off, but that is because she was injured for the first 8 games of the season. She's an outstanding player. Coming into her junior year as a middle blocker, I think she can definitely take the next step to be an elite player on this Longhorns team, which is already full of very talented athletes. I think she can take the next step and really be a breakout player for them this year.
Yeah, she's definitely a great returning star. I mean, she did miss those first 8 games. I believe it was the first 8. Mm-hmm. But she did come back. Just you wouldn't even have known she was injured. So definitely a great option. Jordan?
Yeah, Breon Butler is good, but I think I'm going to go with Skylar Fields as a player who I think will take a jump from her already good season last year. She was the #1 volleyball recruit in the nation, and she had a good freshman season, but after being chosen as an all Big 12 preseason pick, along with teammates Breon Butler and Logan Eggleston, she'll be ready to show out in the Irwin Center this year. Her, Butler, and Eggleston will make for a pretty imposing frontline attack for any opponent lined up across the net.
Yes, all great leaders as well. John, what do you think?
I'm going to go for freshman setter Naomi Cabello out of Claremont, Florida. She was one of the most sought-after recruits this year, with 649 kills and 1,844 assists throughout her high school career, varsity all of those years. She was the 2019 Under Armour first-team All-America, and she's going to add another level of depth to this already stacked Texas team, just stacking their odds to have a great season this year.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a great addition to the Longhorns. Again, that's one of 4 new additions, but I'm going to have to go with Raul on this one just because Breon Butler, I mean, she played in all 27 matches of her rookie season, And just, I mean, like she's just a force to be reckoned with in the middle there. And you can't get any better than that. And she's definitely going to be a great leader for this team. So Raul, you are getting the points on this one. And when we come back, the panel discusses the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup finals. You won't want to miss it.
Sports Show,
the premier sports talk show on the 40 acres. We're back.
Welcome back to College Crossfire. Before we get started, we're going to award some of our panelists some extra points. First up, Jordan, you're going to start out with an extra point because of your stellar background. And Raul, you're getting an extra point because of your homemade hype video that was shared on our social media accounts today. And before we get back in, let's take a look at the scoreboard. On first base, we have Jordan with 3 points. Second base, we have John with 1 point. In third base, we have Raul with 3 points. All right, let's get to it. The Stanley Cup finals are underway in the Edmonton bubble as we speak, pitting the Dallas Stars against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Stars won the Western Conference in a 5-game series against the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Tampa Bay Lightning advanced after a 6-game series against the New York Islanders. Both Dallas and Tampa Bay are looking to add a second Stanley Cup championship to their franchise. The Stars came out hot, taking a 4-1 victory in the series opener, only for the Lightning to come back with a 3-2 victory in Game 2. The series is all square at 1-1. Both teams have forces to be reckoned with in the goalie position, with the Stars' Anton Khudobin and the Lightning's Andrei Vasilevsky. That being said, who has the advantage in the Stanley Cup finals? Jordan?
Yeah, I think that the Tampa Bay Lightning most likely have the biggest advantage in these finals, and that is their explosiveness. In Game 2, they jumped out to a 3-goal lead in the first period, with 2 of their goals coming from power plays. And while the Stars attempted to rally, Tampa held on long enough to pull out a victory. Comparatively, the Stars seemed a little overwhelmed, resorting to physicality that resulted in penalties in the Lightning's favor. If the Lightning can come out of the gate fast and take advantage of Dallas's penalty problems, the game script could swing in their favor. Also, Tampa Bay's captain Steven Stamkos could be returning to the ice any day now, and that which would give the team a serious boost.
Right, and Tampa Bay was definitely the favorite coming into this game. However, the Stars have been showing up too, so those are all great points. John, what do you think?
I disagree with Jordan. The Dallas Stars have gained so much momentum in this post-Corona format, and they've just been explosive this past little season here. And I think that momentum is going to carry them through the Stanley Cup finals to lift that trophy. All they need to do is just keep the penalties to a minimum, because that's what really killed them in Game 2.
Right. They're definitely surprising many people with this. I mean, how far they've made it just in and of itself was definitely shocking to the audience. So it's definitely an interesting point too. Raul?
You know, as much as I want to root for the Stars because they have this kind of underdog advantage to them, Tampa Bay is also playing with the chip on their shoulder too. I mean, they were eliminated in the first round of the Eastern Conference last year. So they're playing with something to prove as well. And you look at talent-wise, Tampa Bay is just completely dominant on all positions on the ice. They have an amazing starters. Their depth they have a ton of players who can just play. I'm talking about Victor Hedman, who's arguably one of the best defensemen in the world right now. Jaxie, you mentioned their goalkeeper, Vasilevsky, who's having a great playoff run right now. I think the Lightning are just the ultimate team in the Stanley Cup, and I think that the Stars, as much as they have a lot going for them, I don't think they have what it takes to come out on top here.
Right, that's also a fair point too. John, I'm going to go with you on this one, just because not only the underdog pick, but it's just that they've been coming out and shocking people. So it's not like they've been on a downslope at all. I mean, other than obviously they've been going back and forth with winning and losing. But I mean, the returning players that they have, like Tyler Seguin and Dobby, I mean, their goalie's been playing unbelievable and just the stops that he's made. So, John, you're going to get the points on this one. Next up, things are getting intense in the NBA bubble as the Eastern and Western conferences are playing to solidify who will represent each side in the NBA Finals. The Eastern side pits the Miami Heat against the Boston Celtics, where the Heat have a 2-1 lead. The Western Conference has the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Denver Nuggets, where the Lakers have a 2-1 lead. It was just last night that the Nuggets grabbed a critical win in the series. The young Nuggets player stepped up. Jamal Murray put up 28 points. Jeremy Grant had 26 points. And Nikola Jokic put up 22 points and had 10 rebounds. Tomorrow brings us Game 4. Do you think the Nuggets can still contend against the Lakers? John?
No, I think the Lakers are going to keep control of the lead and, finish the job. They have so much talent, and with that talent, they're able to regroup, replan, and reassert what they're going to do after this loss. Honestly, they just need to take better care of the ball and foul less. And I think they have so much talent that they're able to do that and able to make the adjustments to win the Western Conference championship moving forward.
Right. Definitely a lot of experienced players on that roster that stand out and will help them throughout this conference finals. Raul?
Yes, at the start of the playoffs, I would have said, there's no way the Lakers are going to win the West. There's no competition. But after what the Jazz have done in each of the series that they played, what they did against the Jazz, what they did against the Clippers and the former MVP, I think there's a lot of opportunity for the Nuggets to really take hold of the series. I mean, we saw what happened in Game 3. Obviously, the Nuggets pulled away. Great play from Jamal Murray and obviously Nikola Jokic. Jeremiah Grant was 10 for 12 at the free throw line, which really helped boost their game. And Game 2, they may have lost the Game 2, but they lost off of a three-pointer from Anthony Davis. It's not like they're getting blown out. They're taking it to the Lakers each game. And I think, as we've seen in the last two series, they're winning if they're down 3-1. Maybe they should just give up another game just to make it a little bit easier for them to come back, because we know they do so well when they're playing under pressure.
Right. They take the pressure kind of to their advantage. They've just been that fourth quarter for sure. They've been heading in there and trying to get the job done, although sometimes you can't help with AD firing a 3 over you. Jordan?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the Nuggets can still contend. Before last night, Denver was down 0-2 against the Lakers, who were looking pretty dominating. But the last time the Nuggets were down multiple games was last series against the Clippers, and then the series before that against the Jazz, and they won both of them. This squad have been the king of the comeback for this entire bubble, as shown by last night's convincing victory. They refuse to go down easily. Anthony Davis has been wreaking havoc the entire time, but their big man Nikola Jokic, he isn't a slouch either. He's tallying over 20 points a game. He's getting rebounds. And, of course, they have Jamal Murray knocking down crazy shots in the backcourt. Denver's identity for these playoffs has been built on the comeback, and I believe they can 100% pull it off again. Will they? That's another story.
Right. They definitely will put up a tough fight, but I'm going to have to give John the points on this one just because I was looking earlier and I just kind of realized that the talent on that Lakers roster, they had about 6 players that I could think of top of mind that have won championships. Not all together, but have won championships. I know J.R. Smith was on the team with LeBron when they won. So in 2016. So I just have to say the Lakers definitely are a force to be reckoned with as well here. So John, you're gonna get the points on this one. And heading into NFL, week 2 of the NFL regular season brought some great football, but also a lot of injuries. These injuries plagued even top stars that might be missing more than just one game. The San Francisco 49ers had 5 players go down in their game against the Jets, including defensive star Nick Bosa and top quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. The New York Giants running back Saquon Barkley went down with a torn ACL and will be out for the season. The Denver Broncos, who are already having to play without some of their starters, had quarterback Drew Lock and wide receiver Courtland Sutton go down, clearly not helping their offensive cause. The injury list goes on. Some teams are being hit harder than others. So, what do you think was the most devastating injury from week 2? Raul?
Yeah, so I think Saquon Barkley would have been the most devastating injury, but when you talk about devastating, that means that it's going to be the most detrimental to the team. The Giants weren't going to make a really strong playoff argument this season. However, the 49ers are coming off of a Super Bowl appearance, and they just lost about, I think, multiple players. I think Nick Bosa going down was huge for the 49ers. Talk about a guy who had an amazing rookie season. He's coming in, he's a captain on that defensive front. And the 49ers really prided themselves on their defense. So you lose a bunch of players. You lose Solomon Thomas as well on the defensive front, and a lot of offensive guys. But to lose that cornerstone in Nick Bosa, that's a huge, momentum killer for them. And I'm not really sure how they're going to be able to bounce back for losing so many key pieces, especially Nick Bosa.
Sure. And like I said, 5 players going down. I mean, it was on both sides of the ball too. So it's not even like, ooh, we're lacking offensively, we're lacking defensively. It's both sides that they're losing key players. So very fair points. Jordan?
Yeah, Raul stole my answer of Nick Bosa. So I'm going to switch it up here, and I'm going to say the combinedness of Drew Lock and Courtland Sutton for the Broncos. This was supposed to be Drew Lock's year to prove that he can be the franchise quarterback for the Broncos, and they had a chance to contend for a wild card playoff spot, especially now that since they added one this season. But now that he's gone down, the offense has gone into the hands of Jeff Driscoll, who, for saying, who is that? You won't be blamed by saying that. And Courtland Sutton, who is probably their biggest offensive weapon, besides maybe Melvin Gordon, he's out for the year now too. And so now this Broncos offense doesn't really have an identity to speak for itself. And Von Miller on the other side of the ball, he went out before the season even started, which is obviously a very devastating blow, not only to the defense, but to the whole locker room as well. I think that the Broncos had a chance to compete, but with these injuries, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yes, the injuries on the offensive side are definitely going to hit the Broncos hard. John, what do you think?
For week 3, I think going into week 3, one of the most devastating injuries coming out of week 2 would be Kansas City running back Darrell Williams. He received an ankle injury in their game versus the Chargers. And that's going to be big news for this offense. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks in these recent years, providing explosiveness for that offense. But Darrell Williams provided another facet to this offense. And they're going up against the Baltimore Ravens, 2 very good, very explosive teams, 2 of the best in the NFL this year. And it's going to be probably their biggest game of the season, of the regular season. And losing that key point in their offense, it leaves their running game, aside from Patrick Mahomes scrambling, to rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire to go against one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Right. Also a very valid option there. I'm going to have to go with Raul on this one, just because the 49ers took such a hard hit in week 2 that it was just kind of blew everyone out of the water. But especially Nick Bosa as the defensive star, reigning defensive rookie of the year. I mean, that's a hard loss there. So Raul, you're getting the points on that one. And coming up next, it's rapid fire here on College Crossfire. You won't want to miss it.
Men's basketball looks for a key win against Iowa State. Women's basketball is tested against the number 2 team in the nation.
The Longhorns had a dominant pitching performance in the latter half of the game, led by Pete Hansen.
I get to say some of the most exciting words in football. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock. And picking for
Texas started the third with the lead and continued to gain momentum on defense.
Hello and welcome into the first social distancing college press box ever.
You're watching a live sports presentation of Texas Student Television.
It's a lovely evening in Austin. Texas Longhorns, Texas A&M Aggies.
This is a rivalry game, high intensity, high scoring.
Puck drop, we're off.
Both of these teams are very fast.
Big collision on the wall there. Now a little advantage for Texas. Shot in the middle.
Welcome back to College Crossfire. It's time for rapid fire. In this round, points are worth double, and that means it's anybody's game. Before we jump back in, let's take a look at the scoreboard. On first base, we have Jordan with 3 points, tied on second base with John 3 points, and third base, we have Raul with 4 points. Let's hop in. Like we discussed right before the break, injuries plagued the NFL in week 2 of the regular season. Some teams were lucky, and other teams not so much. It was brutal. 3 starting quarterbacks and the top 2 fantasy picks all left their week 2 games with injuries. According to ProFootballReference.com, 250 players were actively injured on the roster. Given all these injuries, which NFL player would you like to see come out of retirement and make a comeback? Anyone can hop in.
Oh, man. I think that since, let's see. I would say since he just retired this offseason and the team that he's on isn't doing so hot right now, they just had one of the biggest injuries. I would like to see Luke Kuechly come back out of retirement for the Panthers. He was such a big part of that defense, such a leader, and he's already probably going to be a Hall of Famer. And he retired pretty young too. He still had a lot of, fight left in him. I would like to see him come back. Maybe the Panthers could get a defensive boost, and then once Christian McCaffrey returns, they can maybe compete for an NFC wildcard. Who knows?
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll hop in. I think they should get Peyton Manning back out of retirement. But as you said earlier, Drew Lock's down, and they could use a really seasoned quarterback. Peyton Manning already knows the Denver offense very well. He's been there for a while, won a Super Bowl there. Why not get Peyton back and give him another shot at another Super Bowl ring?
Another shot. All right. John, what do you think? Oh, no, I think we lost you.
Tony Romo. Get him out of the press box.
No.
Back on the field. No. Absolutely. He may be injury-ridden, but it'll be great football.
Romo's a good option too, but Raul, you're going to get the points on this one. Manning, solid option. Definitely would be a great addition, especially on that offensive side. So Raul, you're getting the points on that one. Next up, the NFL season started at the beginning of September, which means that fantasy football also had to start. Whether you're playing with family, friends, or coworkers, this brings out the most competitive side of anyone. Part of participating in a league allows you the opportunity to name your team and even add your own team logo. Many people get clever with their team names. Some use top players on their drafted roster to create a funny name. Some predict team outcomes. Some mock players and coaches. The list goes on. So what do you think is the best fantasy football team name? Anyone can jump in.
I think I have one as well. I think the Patrick Mahomes are a very good name. If you have Patrick Mahomes as your starting quarterback, I think it's a very suitable name. The Mahomes, very inviting name as well. So I'm going to go with that one.
Again, naming after the star players on the rosters.
Of course, yeah. Going off of that spirit, I would go with Run CMC for Christian McCaffrey because it works on like 3 different levels. First of all, CMC are his initials. Run DMC, of course, the classic hip hop group. It's a reference to them. Great job. Walk this way, And also run because that's what Christian McCaffrey does. He's a running back. That's 3 levels right there. Triple entendre. The one that this show is named after as well, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy Team, that one's not bad either. I might steal that.
All right. John, what do you think?
Along those lines, I have to say Tampa Bay. Because, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay, great combination.
All right, I'm going to have to go with Jordan on this one. Not only did you say the name, but you explained every part of it, and I loved the run part too. So Jordan, you're going to get the points on that one. And heading into the final question of the night. On Monday, the Las Vegas Raiders hosted the New Orleans Saints in their first game at their brand new $1.9 billion Allegiant Stadium. The new 65,000-seat stadium is also now home to the largest 3D printed object in the world. That object is the Al Davis Memorial Torch, which pays tribute to the late owner of the Raiders. After Davis died in 2011, the Raiders honored him before home games by lighting the Al Davis Memorial Torch. Now they have an 85-foot custom torch that will be featured on every game day in the end zone. Thinking more local, if you could make a centerpiece for UT's new South end zone, what would it be?
I think that we should take the ball that Cameron Dicker used to kick that field goal, the famous field goal that made Cameron Dicker immortal. We should take it, wrap it in like diamond or crystal. That kind of resembles the NCAA trophy a little bit too much. Let's just say gold, and just like put it in the end zone, maybe right above the goalpost. That way we know forever that was the ball that made the kick. I think that should be enshrined in UT's memory.
Never going to lose it. It's going to be there forever.
I think we should have a statue commemorating UT's beloved mascot, Bevo. Similar to the Colossus of Rhodes, just a really huge bronze statue of the bovine. With the legs maybe on the two staircases that go up. We'll have it over that, just like looming over the south end zone.
Can never go wrong with Bevo. He is everything that Texas stands for. Raul, what do you think?
In a less maybe serious note, I think we should maybe have the Minister of Culture himself enshrined in a massive bronze statue. Let's get Matthew McConaughey throwing up the horns out on the south end zone. That'll be a good statue to have in terms of getting school spirit going. I think he'd be a nice addition to DKR.
All right. Well, Matthew McConaughey single-handedly leads this school, especially with football. I mean, everyone's Minister of Culture out there. You see him on the field, you're like, oh my gosh, it's McConaughey. So I just am picturing an 85-foot statue of McConaughey in the end zone. I couldn't even imagine how the stadium would just absolutely rave over that. So Raul, you're getting the points and the win. So congratulations. That being said, it's time for FaceTime. So Raul, take it away.
Real quick, in the words of former NBA player Kendrick Perkins, I am riding with them goons from Dade County. Where are they? There they are. Miami Heat. I will say it once and I'll say it again.
Hero.
Heat in 5. Remember that. Celtics are going home.
The Miami native himself. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's episode of College Crossfire. Don't forget to follow us on social media at TSTV Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Lastly, be sure to wake up with the One and O Sports Show this morning on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. From all the panelists in our virtual studio and our virtual master control, I'm Jaxie Pidgeon. Have a wonderful evening.